everybody who is watching this video now, may I present to you Brian Ward. Brian is a member in the global core team of our network since 2006, when we met through the internet. Through the work of Brian in our network, his very valuable and wonderful contributions over the world, over time, we were encouraged to have our 17th annual conference, 2011, in Dunedin in New Zealand. I'm now with Brian in his house in Timaru, where he lives with his family, and I would like to meet him. I would like you to meet him. And Brian, I have known you since 2006, but only via email, and it's absolutely wonderful that we finally have met in person. And I must tell everybody that I was impressed by Brian before, but now I'm much more impressed. He's such a deep thinker, and he comes and takes his experiences from his life, and he analyzes, he reflects, he comes to conclusions. It's breathtaking, the depth that I find here in his thinking, and the sincerity and the dedication. And I would be so happy if we could now have here Brian, what he would like and how he would like to contribute to the World Dignity University. So whoever is watching this, please click on this video and express your interest when you want to, in case you want to share, to know more about Brian's background, about Brian's experiences, and the deep thinking he has developed from that. So welcome, Brian. We are so happy to have you in our network. You received our award, Beacon of Dignity Award, in our conference. And I'm so glad that it's at a central place in your house now, because we are so glad to have you in our network. So please now, I would be happy if you could present yourself and then also explain what you would like to contribute to our World Dignity University.
Well, thank you, Evelyn. Thank you very much for those great words. It's an absolute pleasure being part of the Human DHS network, not only for what I can help with, but for the huge amount of information and understanding I get from all around the world, all different cultures, and with some very caring and loving people who spread that message through their work. And Evelyn, you're there with Linda at the core of it, and there are so many other lovely people as well involved. So I'm very lucky to connect up some years ago, and I can tell you my background. I'm a traffic engineer, a chartered professional traffic engineer, and my job is has been over the years, for some 30 years, designing roads, designing roundabouts and things like that, and generally making the roads more safer and efficient, and indeed transportation in general is my interest. And I guess it leads to engineering. Engineering leads to as you grow in a job, you lead to a more holistic view of things, and indeed with engineering is no exception. You look wider at the issues that you find on the roads, and you know that engineering alone isn't necessarily going to solve these problems. There are other things like enforcement, education, encouragement. They all seem to start with E, but they sort of form the holistic view, or the systems view of a particular system. In this case, the transportation network, and then it means that you take yourself out of engineering and start looking at things from other people's perspectives, be they psychologists or educators, and so you start to learn a bit about how they approach things, and you bring that together to work on the solutions. And and indeed with road engineering or transportation engineering, there are factors from the road, there are vehicle factors, and there are also driver factors. And when I listed them all out, I found that driver factors were very large. And when we think of how people in their daily lives may be stressed from work or stressed from being in positions of being put down or stressed from others, driving is a task that is harder and therefore could be less safe. So there are definitely psychological factors in the area of human dignity and humiliation that need more looking at when we look at the road safety on these transportation systems. So that's my background, and I have worked towards other than engineering, and indeed taking a systems thinking view of things and learning what systems thinking is all about, because we found at the conference that holistic or systems thinking is all across all aspects of human endeavour and existence, and to understand that will mean we can work towards effective solutions together as we move forward in our lives. And so I came to join with the wider group, Evelyn and Human Dignity and Humiliation Studies, to get a better view of all of these aspects. And
we just had a small pause, and now we are starting again. I would like to ask you, and it will contribute to that everybody understands your position more. Why did you call your company 5 Power Systems? Yeah,
well, that was a lot of thought went into that at the time. There are a number of reasons why the company is called that, and it goes from the way I think and feel about things deeply to relationship as a name for some of the work that I actually do. And if I explain in simple terms, 5 Power, which is, imagine a pentagon, is a collaborative form of being in a company, or rather than the sort of top-down hierarchy structure that I don't sit well with me. I imagine a pentagon as part of a system, as an organisation where you have a range of people working together in a collaborative sense, and I use 5 as the common figure, and it is on my website that I have developed, that essentially means power systems are best run as 5, or more than 1, but say 5, and so that it gives a indication of strength and collaboration, and that's how I think with almost all of my activities and all of the things I do, from my community work through to my business development and through to the company I call it, and indeed the spirituality, if you like, of that form of a relationship with others. So my company is there for my trafficking work as a consultant. I have also been working on a new business for New Zealand in the form of making the core ingredient for the photovoltaic solar panel, which is solar grade silicon, making that at an affordable cost, because renewable energy is certainly one thing for the future. At an affordable cost, it will bring dignity into a lot of people's lives that particularly don't have power now and suffer the health and other consequences of not having that. So that's really my company name, and I guess one of the one of the examples I use is we often talk of the bottom lines of business, and I thought about that and read about that, and we've heard of the profit maximisation bottom line, and then that's moved into the triple bottom line where we have environmental and social considerations coming into it, and I thought of it in terms of 5 bottom lines, and those are profit, reasonable profit, environmental, and we know that what environmental is, sustainability, and really just sustainability covers that mostly, and then the social side of things. And if we look at the social bottom line in business, we can break that into 3 different aspects so that we have 5 overall. One is the increase of the global knowledge pool, so that everybody learns from a business and indeed innovates from that to improve things even more. There's the bottom line of personal, the development of the employee, the well-being and development of the employee. That's an important social bottom line. And the third one is which I've got here is indeed the quality of life. In other words, in a business you have the bottom lines of reasonable profit. You have the bottom line of environmental sustainability. You have the bottom line of personal growth. You have the bottom line of knowledge pool, sharing knowledge and improving things. And then you have the other one of, the last one of quality of life. And I think if those are all built into a business model, then you'll start to see that we can move a lot more forward in dealing with the issue of rich and poor, the gap between the very rich and the very poor, and starting to bring people together so that everybody's quality of life is good.
Thank you. This is very, speaks very much to what we in our network continuously discuss. How do we have to envisage and envision our human affairs on this planet so that our children will find a world, a future worth living in? So you are experimenting with that in your life, how you can embed the old business model, embed into a larger ethical context. And this is so fascinating how you do that. Like, I come from an academic background. There we are spared this. The taxpayer pays academics. Okay, I'm in a bit, I've stepped out of that in many ways, but so we believe in our network that we need, in order to really achieve the deep change that we need now in our world, we need to bring people like you in and bring us together and out of the segmented parts of society. So it's so valuable to link with you. And what I perhaps want also to bring in here at that point, that we are now in New Zealand, where there is a minority of around 15% of Maoris, and you are a descendant of Irish and Scottish immigrants. And of course this is also a huge topic of dignity, of trust, especially of trust. And this speaks to the issue or the problem of trust that we have globally also. The more the profit maximization has been become a primacy, the more trust has dissipated. We have become more and more afraid of being cheated. The economic crisis shows this. You know, that we cannot basically trust each other anymore if everybody is his or her own only motive is to maximize profit. It undermines mutual trust. So you are here in New Zealand in a very specific situation where this trust has been undermined already earlier, and where you know that in order to reach out to a group of people who might be very, you know, where there's a historical dynamic of humiliation, and then, you know, how do you embed, do you reach out? And I have observed you doing that during our conference to Carmen Heteraka, and you know, how you build trust on the top of humiliation that is historically grown. And I admire you highly for that. And so I admire you for your creativity and how you invest entrepreneurship into not just a business, but how business can be embedded into a larger ethical context. And this is, for me, you know, what I learn most from you. Perhaps many aspects, but this is very important perhaps for our global audience.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. I'm a systemic innovator, and not always positive outcomes, but then that's the nature of creativity and innovation, and I think that in New Zealand we have a historical culture, dominant culture from let's say Europe, and this tends to there are stark differences between it and the core Maori way of going about things, and this is not at odds. These are aspects for dialogue, and I was extremely lucky in the last week to meet with Carmen, who is a Maori from the North Island. I'm in the South Island, and for him to share with us the core value of Maori, which we never normally see in through normal media or other ways, and he shared that with us. And it shows how similar the Maori core culture is to others around the world, particularly indigenous cultures, and where we come from, cultures from far away in Europe, the system, the class system, the dominating system of culture, which we take for granted almost every day. When it's looked at against others, that there are aspects of that are quite hard on people. That we can learn to have roles rather than exist at levels, and we don't all have to be academics. We can take our place in humanity at any position, but we take it as a role and not at a level, so that we can work together that way. So I find that in New Zealand we're lucky. We have freedom of expression. We have the ability to think freely and share those thoughts with each other without issue, and this will continue to happen. We will use that to improve the life of everybody, and recognising that we can achieve this unity with a lot of diversity in culture, but to fundamentally respect each other in that diversity. So yeah, I find this all quite connected, and that indeed it's connected throughout everybody. There is that deep connection of understanding and intrinsic dignity that we all have, that we connect each other with, and it's fair to say that this group is looking to increase that connectiveness through that equal dignity, and it becomes very enlightening, and when you see it manifest itself in various places, both within the organisation and outside of it. Yeah.
Mm. You know, at the end of my talk, I said I made a point that we decided to come to New Zealand for our 17th annual conference, even though it was too far for many of our members to come and to travel, because we believe that in times of crisis, where should the new ideas and innovative creativity come from? Perhaps not from the power centers, perhaps from the periphery, the indigenous people like Carmen, and then you, who, you know, you have a different culture here in New Zealand, and I think you have a different perspective on the world, and we will have in the future a lot of use and will enjoy and be enriched by this perspective from the periphery in many ways, and you connect these periphery perspectives with the perspective of the core, of the power center. So this richness of perspectives is why we are here, why we decided to have our conference here, and so I would like to encourage everybody who is watching this now to write to us, to Brian, and motivate him to do the next step for our World Dignity University initiative, namely to create perhaps first a PowerPoint presentation with voice, with audio. This might be the first step, then a lecture of 1 hour, and then later perhaps a seminar, both face-to-face here in New Zealand, that everybody comes here who is interested in sharing with Brian, and online for a year, and then a final meeting again here. And so we would like to invite you to motivate, to encourage Brian to bring his message into the world.
I'm happy to do so. I'm happy to do it with anybody who enjoys going into this area and doing it themselves. It's hugely rewarding to face up to the issues of unequal dignity and to turn them into equal dignity, and see what richness flows from that. It's all there to be achieved, and we just open our minds and talk to each other about it, and learn where we can, because the whole process is a learning process, and it's very enjoyable.
And I would like to perhaps we could round up. Before doing that, I would like to acknowledge you and your family, because you were opened the second Human Dignity and Humiliation Studies Dialogue Home. The first one was opened by Linda and Rick in Portland, Oregon in 2009, and now we have opened the second one here in your home. And you made a plaque that everybody who is interested to come to be part of this initiative to open their homes as dialogue homes for our network. Brian has a lovely plate that he can send you, and that you can put on the entrance of your house. So Brian's house has now this plate at its entrance, and we would like to encourage everybody to follow Brian in this initiative to be open his home and his family's home for dialogue.
Yes.
Thank you. It was wonderful, and we are so enriched, and we so much appreciate and celebrate and cherish your generosity and the depth of your thinking and how you share it with the world. And we would like to very much thank you for that, very much.
Thank you very much.